my lovely internet friends, and welcome back to my channel, to you guys and to me, because I haven't been here in almost like half a year. My daughter is 5 months old now. Oh yeah, not pregnant anymore, clearly by the title of this video. I actually filmed this video when she turned 3 months old, like exactly 2 months ago, but I just wasn't happy with how I filmed it. It was all over the place, super messy, and to be honest, I didn't want to edit that video because I feel like I would have confused myself. I collated all the information together, I wrote down proper notes for my birth story. Let's get into this video. It is going to be a long one in natural Lauren fashion, but also my labor was 17 hours long and there were so many things that happened beforehand that is part of the birth story. And I want to make the type of birth story video that I would want to watch. So that means super detailed so I know possibly what I'm getting into. So yeah, let's get into this video. Strap yourselves in, get some popcorn or snacks or whatever, chocolate. Chocolate. Anyway, let's go. Oh yeah, also this is gonna be super TMI because again, it's all in the details. That's just a warning. I was overdue, and during this time when I was just waiting to go into labor, I would seemingly get pre-labor symptoms such as menstrual-like cramps, frequent bowel movements, lots of lightning crotch, Braxton Hicks, and increased discharge. I would get them here and there, but for some reason, every time I would get it and be like, oh my gosh, I'm getting like a pre-labor symptom, this means I might be going into labor soon, it would disappear and just like not come back for like maybe a week. All these symptoms wouldn't happen at the same time, so it was very sporadic. Like I would get it one at 37 weeks and then another one throughout the week, but the other one had disappeared, and then I would get a different one the week later. It was just all over the place and nothing was ever consistent. The main thing I was really looking for was the discharge and bloody show, but for some reason, literally in the final few weeks, my discharge, instead of increasing, it just disappeared altogether. So that was fun. I was hand expressing in order to collect colostrum from 37 weeks, and I was doing so many things. I was doing movements from spinning babies, I was doing the mile circuit, bouncing on a gym ball, eating dates, taking raspberry leaf tea tablets. I was doing everything I could in my power to get this baby out. Not that I was super uncomfortable or anything. I was just so excited to see her. I wanted to go into labor just to be like, I want to meet my baby. But yeah. So when I was 2 days overdue, I had a midwife appointment. I declined a stretch and sweep for the moment, and she felt around my belly and everything, and she said, baby is heading down, but she is right occiput lateral / transverse, so ROT, which means her back would face the right side of my belly and her limbs and everything on the left. She was in that position for ages. I remember getting an ultrasound one time saying that she was already head down by like 20 weeks or something. So that was great, but she wasn't in the optimal position. That's why I really put an emphasis on doing the mile circuit and spinning baby stuff to get her back to face the front and be anterior, that's the word. But so far she was just ROT. They did book me in for an appointment 4 days later in order to see what's going on in there, check out the heart rate and everything, and do a stretch and sweep. Apparently that is procedure for the hospital that I went to. And for me, I didn't necessarily want to do a stretch and sweep, but by that time, being more than a week overdue, I was like, we're gonna do what we're gonna do, right? 6 days later, nothing happened. My midwife checked my cervix. She said, your cervix is soft, but it's not really open or dilated. So she attempted doing a stretch and sweep, and stretch and sweeps are painful. And not necessarily like it's painful. I mean, it is, but it's also just super uncomfortable because where you're experiencing the pain and discomfort in your body feels like you should never have that sensation ever. Like that's the sensation that you get is not normal, and it feels completely unnatural to have pain and discomfort in that area. So yes, got the stretch and sweep done, and my midwife said, it was really difficult because I'm not really dilated, and she felt so bad as well. She's like, I'm sorry, I know it's painful, just breathe through it, try to relax as much as possible, even though I know it's difficult to do. Got the stretch and sweep done, was told I might experience slight bleeding afterwards. That is normal, but if I see bright red blood and like a lot of it, then go to the hospital. Apparently when they checked my baby as well, she was still quite high up. For some reason she didn't want to get down, regardless of me bouncing on the damn gym ball forever. After the stretch and sweep, they booked me in for an induction just in case the stretch and sweep didn't do anything. So they booked me in for a Foley's catheter in 3 days time, and then after that day would be my Pitocin induction. Foley's catheter is a catheter that has like a little deflated balloon at the end of it. They put it up you and go to the cervix and blow up the balloon to manually dilate your cervix. At this point, my midwife also did tell me, just to be completely transparent and honest to me, she said it's not looking promising for things to move along naturally. The day after my stretch and sweep, I thought I had an amniotic fluid leak, so I thought my water broke. I was completely unsure because I thought it was one of those ones that was like a trickle. Usually those ones mean that the top of the bag has ripped and it trickles from the top. The reason I thought that is because I had discharge in my undies and it smelt kind of like semen, and from what I looked up and what I read, a lot of people said that amniotic fluid can have a semen kind of smell, and it definitely was not that because we didn't do the deed. It was just too complicated. The discharge was like a light pale yellow, so I called my midwife. She said head to the hospital to check it out. It wasn't it. I don't know what that was. They used a speculum, took a swab, and they also did an ultrasound to check the fluid levels. Everything was fine, except apparently I had thrush, which I have never had thrush before, and I don't know what thrush looked like. And the thing is, when I googled afterwards what are signs of thrush, they said that your discharge looks like, I'm sorry to say this, TMI again, but it looks like cottage cheese, and the discharge I had did not look like cottage cheese. So I was really confused what was happening. It was weird to me as well because I had no symptoms and my midwife didn't see anything of that sort the day before, so maybe it just developed overnight. My cervix was still long, soft, but closed, so the membrane sweep did absolutely nothing. Membrane sweep, stretch and sweep, same thing. It did nothing for me. Following night, it was like 8 hours before I was due to get my Foley's catheter, I lost my mucus plug. And that was very, very exciting for me. I was like, what the heck? But at first I was very confused again, because what happened was I went to the toilet, I wiped, and at this point I'm always checking the color just in case there is some bloody show. By the way, that is the technical term for it. It's just bloody discharge. So I'm not just saying bloody show for the fun of it. It's actually called bloody show. So I would always check to see if there's any bloody show. For some reason, my discharge was clear, thick, gummy, and jelly-like. Gross, I know, but you know, it's birth. At this time, it was only a small chunk though, and I was really confused because, again, it wasn't bloody, it was clear, but I thought maybe this is my version of thrush, like, I don't know, and maybe the nurse or the doctor saw something that I didn't that was thrush, but this kind of discharge that I had did not match the description of what your discharge is when you have thrush. So again, I know this is gross, this is TMI, but I was very in tune with my body. I was not disgusted by my bodily fluids necessarily. So I wanted to have a look at what was happening, and I got a handheld mirror and I checked myself out, and I had, I'm sorry, this is so gross, but it is what it is. I had a long piece of discharge just chilling out, halfway out. I decided to remove it, and it was kind of never ending. It felt. It did kind of break into pieces every now and again, but it was quite long. And again, it was clear, thick, jelly-like, and it was stretchy. So yeah, I thought, what else could it be but my mucus plug? And my midwife also gave me an info sheet about your mucus plug. So some people, their mucus plug has blood in it, some people don't. And that was me. I put on a pad that night just in case anything happened overnight, and went to sleep. Woke up early the next morning to get ready to go to the hospital to get my Foley's catheter put in. Went to the bathroom, the pad was clean. I was sad. I stood up to flush, and before I did, I quickly looked into the toilet bowl again, always checking to see if anything was moving along. And inside the toilet bowl, there were bits and pieces of blood. At first, I freaked out because I was like, blood, and throughout your entire pregnancy, basically, you should be scared of blood, except for at the end. So I freaked out, naturally being like, oh my gosh, something's wrong. But then I realized, hey, this is actually a good thing. So I was like, yes, there's blood. I wiped myself again to double check the color, and it was like a light pinky brown color blood, which is good. Bright red is usually bad. So the color I had was good. So yeah, I finally had some bloody show. I was so happy, so excited about it. I was ready to go and leave the house, but it was pouring rain. This is when La Nina started, and it was just non-stop torrential rain for weeks. So what my husband did was he went out first to bring the car closer, and then I went to leave, and as I went to exit the gate, I felt this massive gush. I was like, what the heck was that? Massive gush. And I just thought, oh my gosh, did my water just break? My water broke. So I walked to the car and I opened the door, and as I opened the door, I thought another gush. I was like, oh my goodness. I said to Roger, my husband, I think my water just broke. I felt a massive gush exiting the gate, and just then I got another massive gush. And he started like freaking out a little bit, being like, okay, then what do we do? Does this mean you're going into labor? Do I need to get the bags? What's happening? But we were on the way to the hospital anyway. So I said, let's just go to the hospital and see what happens. The hospital wasn't far from my house anyway, so it was all good. I went to sit down in the car, and another massive gush. Drove to the hospital, felt a few gushes on the way. I did luckily have a pad on. Dropped me off. There were still quite a few restrictions when it came to hospitals. He wasn't allowed in there with me for my smaller appointments. I went inside the hospital, and as I was going up the elevator, there were two nurses in there with me, and I felt liquid dripping down my leg. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is so embarrassing. They didn't notice, I don't think. But in my head, I was like, this is so embarrassing. Even though they've probably seen all sorts of stuff. Okay, so I'm at the hospital. Breathing unit. So much has happened this morning. I went to go to the toilet when I woke up. Nothing on my pad. And then when I looked in the toilet, there was blood. And then when we went to go to the hospital, going to the car, I felt a gush. And I felt another gush. And then as I was getting up here, it dripped down my leg. I meant to get my Foley's in today, but it's probably not gonna happen. I went into the ward. My midwife was on the way, so another midwife went to look after me first, and she was like, yep, that's definitely your waters. Your waters have broken. So that was fun and very exciting for me because I lost my mucus plug the night before. I had some bloody show and my water broke. So these were all fantastic signs that something was happening. She hooked me up to the fetal heart monitor, measured my belly. I was 41 weeks plus 2 days overdue at this point, and I was measuring 43 centimeters. So she was like, this is a big baby. Usually at some certain point in your pregnancy, whatever the measurement is for your belly should line up to how many weeks you are. So if you're 25 weeks, you should be roughly around 25 centimeters. So at this point, I should have been 41 centimeters, but I was 43. My midwife came and she was like, wow, that's so good, your water broke. But this means we can't do the Foley's catheter due to risk of infection. So we will cancel that. Can't confirm, my water broke. You actually need to come back to the hospital, this is their policy, in 18 hours to start antibiotics. But 18 hours would have been like at 1 o'clock in the morning, so she thought that was absolutely ridiculous. I am not coming at 1 o'clock in the morning, especially as I was due to give birth via induction the next day. So she said, just come tonight around 10-11 p.m. You can sleep here and we will start giving you antibiotics. Hopefully something will happen by then, but that's the plan. You don't need a Foley's catheter. Just go home, relax, take a nap, chill. I went home, I did nap, I did chill. I was wearing a fabulous adult nappy, and I didn't know this, but when you break your waters. It's not like your water breaks and it's one and done. What happens is the amniotic fluid replenishes itself in the amniotic sac, so it kind of just like fills up and then again, and you will keep gushing throughout the day. And that's what happened to me. I was napping, and then when I finished my nap, I sat up and it was the weirdest sensation because I just felt like I was constantly wetting myself and I was scared that I was gonna leak everywhere. But these adult nappies were the real MVP. From my experience with the amniotic fluid, it had a very strong chlorine-like smell. So not like semen, very chlorine-like smell. The liquid it wasn't super liquidy, it wasn't super thick. The consistency of it was somewhere between water and a serum. So it was slightly viscous, but not too viscous. I went back to the hospital that night. Je and I are racing. Oh my goodness. Let's see who got there first. Come on, open. Did not start contracting during that time. Had a cannula put in. I actually still have the mark from that. That mark there. It's fading a little. But yeah, that's from my cannula. So I got my cannula put in, started antibiotics at like 11 p.m. and I went to sleep at the hospital overnight. My husband was not allowed in there with me. Okay, so here we are. I'm in my room. It's the night before I get induced. I have my cannula in. I needed to get some antibiotics because I ruptured my membranes, aka my water break this morning. But yeah, in the room, I'm just gonna sleep. Or try to sleep. I don't know how I'm gonna sleep with this in my hand. I mean, I'll get used to it, but it's just a bit weird having this thing in my hand, and it's gonna be in my hand until the baby's born. Let's have a little room tour. This is the room. It's nice. And then here I am. And this lovely jumper was my husband's jumper. First kind of gift he gave to me. Look at all those holes in it. He gave this to me when we were boyfriend and girlfriend. I cannot believe it. Tomorrow I'm going to be having a baby. Unless he decides to come tonight. Oh wait, no. It's already today. Tomorrow is today because it's midnight already. I honestly don't know how I'm going to sleep. I don't sleep quite easily in other places. This cannula feels so weird. Apparently it's not like a needle, like it goes in with needle and then they take it out, and then it's just like a plastic tube, so it's like bendable. But right now it feels really tender, so I don't know, I just feel, I'm so aware of it, I'm just like, I don't want to bend it, but whatever. Anyway, good night. See you at 6 o'clock in the morning so I can have a baby. That was the worst sleep I've ever had in my life. I only got around 2 hours sleep because the bed was uncomfortable and there was a light that was constantly on because, you know, it's a hospital. I really should have brought an eye mask, which I didn't think about because I thought I was going to be able to sleep easy. No. The night went, I got my course of antibiotics every 6 hours, which was only once during that time. But I never started contracting at all. No contractions whatsoever, not even a little bit. It was the morning and time for my Pitocin induction, which my midwife came in and she was like, gotta be honest, really sad that nothing started happening overnight, but that's alright, here we go, induction time. So she set everything up, and just to let you know, my birth plan / preferences was to have an unmedicated natural water birth, which you'll find out did not happen. For some reason, my midwife told me as well that because my water had broken prematurely, that I would not be able to do a water birth. But another nurse that did my antibiotics in the middle of the night told me, you can do a water birth because you're having antibiotics. I wasn't able to do a water birth. I don't know. Honestly, I'm still confused. I should have asked more questions. But I was tired and there was so many things happening that I just didn't. I needed constant monitoring as well due to having premature rupture of membranes, aka my water breaking beforehand. Which, by the way, like what happened to me, your water can break and nothing can happen. You can start going into labor without your water breaking as well. Just an FYI. Sometimes women need their water broken for them. We started the induction at 6:30 a.m. with everything ready and starting to go ahead at 7 a.m. So my cervix was checked, and even though I had a stretch and sweep, even though I lost my mucus plug, and I had bloody show, and my water broke, even though all of that happened and I was, at this point, 10 days overdue, again, hospital policy that you need to be induced 10 days overdue. Even though all of this happened, at this point, 7 a.m., I was still only around 1 to 2 centimeters dilated. So nothing progressed really, and my midwife said that the state of my cervix was pretty much unchanged since my stretch and sweep. So it was soft, long, but closed. At this point, my midwife also warned me that induced labors tend to be more painful and more extreme, which I did my research about inductions as well, just to know what I was getting into, and I did hear that from a lot of videos and research. She said they were more intense because when you naturally go into labor, your contractions start off small and then they go larger, and your body kind of has time to get acclimated to it, whereas with inductions, you kind of just get it hard and fast. So your body doesn't really have time to get used to the contraction, and when you go into labor naturally, you've got all these hormones that are playing their part in order to, help you progress through your labor, to assist you with the pain and everything. That's why it's quite intense. She also told me that because I am getting induced, I now have a 30% chance of getting a C-section. Okay, so these contractions were so intense. I had music playing in the background, but besides that, I pretty much forgot about everything that was in my hospital bag. Also, something that wasn't too great as well was because of COVID, I couldn't get an actual tour of the birthing room. I had a virtual YouTube video tour. From the video that I saw, I was like, oh, fantastic, they have all these things. But when I went to the birthing room, all those things basically weren't there. I think because of COVID, a lot of the equipment, such as like birthing balls, and there was this rope that you could pull from the ceiling, a lot of that was unavailable, and I was just unaware of that because I assumed it was there in the video. During my contractions, what we did to help with the pain was counter pressure. My husband pushed on my hips and rubbed my back. I tried using my breathing techniques, and I also tried using the gas, which first time I used it, it was fantastic. I was like, wow, this is amazing. And then the more I used it, I felt sick and I wanted to throw up. So I only used it maybe 3 times before I was like, get it away from me. And I also use a lot of hot water. So we went to the shower. There were 2 shower heads. I put one on my belly. My husband put the other one on my back. Also, something else that made this 10 times worse was that my baby was posterior. So apparently she turned the wrong way. If your baby is in the ROT/ROL position during labor, they tend to turn backwards apparently and be in the least optimal position. So she was back to back / posterior, which made the contractions 10 times worse because posterior babies give you painful contractions. Not only were the contractions super painful, but I was just dead exhausted because I only had 2 hours sleep beforehand. So when I was contracting, by this point I was just so tired, so I sat down on a chair in the shower, hot water on my belly, hot water on my back, and in between contractions I was falling asleep. I would literally doze off, and then a contraction would come and I would be in so much pain, and it was just insane and intense. So I had contractions for about 5 to 6 hours, yelling from pain, kept saying I was so tired and exhausted, and after 5 hours my contractions were still insanely sporadic. There was no pattern to it, which your contractions should start forming a pattern of they're every 2 minutes apart and they last for 30 seconds or whatever. But mine was still super sporadic. I would have
a massive one and then a long break and then another massive one and then a short break and then a little one and then a long break and then a little one again and then a short break and then a large one and then a long break. And then a large one, and then a short break, and another large one.
It was just so all over the place after 5 hours. So I would have a lot of massive contractions back to back, and I didn't have time to recuperate. But also, I was just exhausted, so I didn't have the energy to recuperate. Because I was so exhausted and tired, my midwife came up to me and she said, look, if you want to have an epidural, I know that wasn't your plan, but if you want to have one, it is completely okay. We can do that for you. She said that no one's gonna judge you for getting an epidural. So if you need one, you can get one. That is completely fine. We are more than happy to do that for you. And because it'd been 5 hours, I thought, okay, if it's gonna be a couple more hours, surely I can push through. So I asked her, how much longer do you think it's gonna be while I'm in pain? So not so nonchalantly like that. And she said, I'm gonna be completely honest with you, maybe another 8 to 10 hours. So I obviously was so defeated by hearing that. I was crushed to hear that after 5 hours, nothing much was happening and it could take another 8 to 10 hours. Right there and then I decided I need to get the epidural. Now, getting the epidural was intense. More than intense. My midwife sprung into action. She called the doctors and said they're going to be around 10 minutes. And I thought, what? 10 minutes? Why can't they come right now? We get out of the shower and I remember this so clearly. So clearly that I was in the middle of the room, my husband's in front of me, I'm holding his hands, and I get these 2 massive contractions back to back, and I have nothing left in me to like tolerate these contractions, especially getting 2 massive ones back to back. So I was like grasping onto my husband's hands so tightly, in so much pain, and just yelling, and it was so painful that like my knees buckled and I almost fell to the floor, but luckily my husband was holding me up. It was just, oh my gosh. Like right now I can't think of the pain because, you know, long gone, but I remember then the pain was so intense. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, like that did not feel like 10 minutes, it literally felt like 10 hours, but the doctors came into the room, and honestly, I know these doctors probably go through this all the time, so for them it's like, whatever, another day at work, another screaming woman in labor. But it just felt so demeaning the way that they treated me. So I'm there in pain, and of course they have to talk through the procedure to you so you know what you're getting into, because there are a lot of risks. Yeah, I was in pain, having contractions, and they're yelling in my face being like, hi Lauren, we are the doctors. We are going to be doing your epidural today. These are the risks, blah, 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 blah. Are you okay with that? And I'm just there being like, yes, clearly. I mean, I've asked for the epidural. Let's just get the show on the road. I know, again, it's their job to tell the risks, and how else are you meant to tell a woman that's in labor? You can't just be like, okay, hello, like, I don't know. Whatever. I know that's their job. I know they have to tell us the risks, but it just felt really condescending and I did not appreciate it, especially while being in labor. I think this is super important for everyone to know about how epidurals worked, because even with all my research, I was not 100% sure on how it worked until I got one. I thought it was a massive needle, they go in, out, done, and it's a quick procedure. But it actually takes a few minutes, and this is not to terrify anyone or scare anyone, it's just to keep you informed on how things happen. My midwife got me to sit on the edge of the bed, and basically you have to curl your spine and like your back as much as possible, and they give you a pillow to hug. The doctors explained to me that what they're gonna do first, they're gonna go in with a small needle using local anesthetic to kind of numb the area a bit. And then they're gonna go in with the epidural needle, and what this needle is actually putting a catheter into your back. And then that catheter will be hooked up to a drip, which then delivers the epidural medication. And I asked them, what happens if I start contracting during this time? And especially with my contractions being so sporadic, basically they were just like, what we're gonna do is if you start getting contractions, let us know and we will just stop what we're doing, and then once you finish, we will continue. So I was like, oh my gosh, what if I get this massive intense contraction and I just want to rip my clothes off, and I didn't have any clothes on. and just yell at the top of my lungs. It's pretty terrifying when you think about it. Yeah, they put this massive kind of like sticker on my back. I don't know, I didn't get to see it, but I did feel them do it. My husband was on my right side, midwife on my left side. I was grasping their hands, curved back as much as possible with this pillow. They went to go in with the local anesthetic needle, and I didn't know they were starting, really. I can't remember if they actually counted down and I just didn't register it, but I didn't expect it. And I am telling you, my husband will tell this to everyone, that this moment in the whole laboring process was the scariest moment ever. And yeah, anyway, so what happened is they went to go in with a local anesthetic needle, and I felt the little tip of it like kind of prick my back, and I jumped like this, and everyone was like, no, do not move whatsoever, do not move. Which, yeah, I totally get why they did that. I just did not expect to feel that little pinprick of the needle. So I think this is the most difficult thing I've ever done in my life, is getting an epidural. Started getting the epidural, and every time I had a contraction, I don't think I've ever clutched people's hands as much as possible before in my life. I couldn't even properly say to the doctors I was having a contraction. I would be like, I'm having one, and like freak out, and just like, I've never felt my body tense up that much in my life. Every time I had a contraction, I'd be like, it's happening, I'm having one. And yeah, it was intense. And I think the whole process of actually getting the catheter in took about 5 minutes, because I would get contractions and they would stop even if the needle was in my back, I assume. And when you get an epidural, you also can't control your bladder properly, so you need a catheter up your urethra as well to collect your urine. At this point, I thought in my head, I feel like a medical experiment, because I have a catheter coming out my back, I have medical tape everywhere, I have the cannula in my arm, catheter coming out, I also have the monitors hooked up to me, and my baby also had the fetal heart electrode or something like that. They call it a clip, but it's not really a clip. Anyway, they put it onto the baby's scalp, so that was coming out of me as well. It gives you a more accurate reading of the baby's heart rate. After I got the epidural, my midwife checked my cervix again. This was after 5 to 6 hours of contractions, and I was still only 2 to 3 centimeters dilated. Also, if you can hear my washing machine, that's what that noise is in the background. I fully intended in doing a birth vlog, but that just did not happen. My husband did, however, take a few videos here and there. Got the epidural. I'm getting a contraction now.
So
I feel it on the right side though. Like, it's not as bad as before, but I'm tired.
yeah,
I'm exhausted. I didn't get good sleep.
no,
So, yeah. Pretty sure I got like 2 hours sleep.
yeah. She woke up, got induced, and then she started having contractions.
You
She,
can talk to the camera too.
yeah,
No, like your face.
it's
My
okay.
face is probably...
No, we want you're the star of the show. So yeah, so then the pain and the tiredness really started getting to her. She started falling asleep and then waking up in immense pain. So she's just like, I need to sleep.
I haven't dilated.
This baby doesn't want to get out.
No.
But yeah, so she's had that.
Hopefully now, because I remember watching someone else's birth vlog. They were basically the same, they weren't dilating, and then when they got the epidural, they dilated so quickly, because their body was more relaxed.
Yeah, so that's
And
that.
shakes as well. Oh my goodness.
So now it is 12 o'clock on the dot. Baby,
For 6 hours.
yeah, 6 hours so far, another probably
6 hours.
another 6.
What I also found out after my midwife checked my cervix, which I also suspected this was the case, my baby was asynclitic, which means her head was a bit wonky like this. And my midwife said that that's probably why I haven't progressed much in my labor, because she's not putting enough pressure on my cervix to make me dilate. That was the situation. Also, another FYI, when you get an epidural, you can get these kind of like shakes and shivers and like kind of like tremors. You just like, I don't know, like a little earthquake in your body. That's apparently normal when you get an epidural. And it's so weird because it's not something that you can control. You're not just like, oh, I'm cold or whatever. Like you just shake. It's so weird. I took a nap. It was fantastic. I felt refreshed, which you'll probably see in a video. I got checked again at 3 p.m. and again, I was only 3 to 4 centimeters dilated. So you can do the math, which my husband did, but that is less than 1 centimeter per hour. Because I wasn't really progressing much, my midwife told me that my C-section chances now rose from 30% to 50%. She kept checking up on me, like kind of like emotionally and mentally, being like, "Are you okay?" And I was like, "Yeah," smiling or whatever, because that's just what I do. She's like, "After all of this and you're still smiling." And then she left the room to do some work and I bawled my eyes out because of course I would do anything in order to get my baby delivered safely, but the last thing I wanted was a C-section. Like, out of everything that was happening that just did not go my way for what I wanted in my labor, the last thing I wanted was a C-section. And my husband, being my husband, he thinks very logically. He was like, well, if you do get a C-section, that means you'll be able to see her sooner and you won't be in labor anymore. Which, logically, again, yes, that is true. But again, I just wanted to avoid a C-section at all costs. And I even told him, I'm like, no, if I can avoid a C-section, I'm going to, because that is major surgery. And I have heard so many stories where C-section recovery is just so painful and awful. So I want to avoid that at all costs, if I can. So I took a few naps, and during this time, my midwife is playing with the levels of Pitocin, or Syntocin, I think they call sometimes. She's trying to find a level that would allow for my contractions to form a pattern and get baby to turn and also keep baby happy. But she put it to the max, gave me fantastic contractions that formed a pattern, but baby's heart rate dropped. And then once she lowered it again, my contractions became sporadic again, but baby was happy. So she was trying to find a sweet spot, which she eventually found, that kept baby happy and made my contractions consistent. My next cervical check was for 7 p.m, but around 6 p.m. I started getting some breakthrough pain on my right side. For some reason, my left side took to the epidural maybe like too well, to the point where my foot felt numb. I was still able to wiggle my toes, which they ask you to do after you get your epidural, but I didn't have any like tactile sensation in my left foot, whereas my right side wasn't numb at all, but there was pain relief up until this point. I started getting the feelings of contractions on my right side. Also, with epidurals, it gets administered to you every, I don't know, however often, automatically, and if you feel like you need more, you can press a button and it will deliver some more medicine. You have to wait a certain amount of time from your last dose in order to get a second dose, whether it's manually or automatically. So because of this breakthrough pain, I did get another cervical check, which, surprise, surprise, nothing had changed with my cervix, but the one thing that did change was my chances of a C-section, which rose from 50% up to 80%. She's awake. She's looking around. Oh, she's so cute. So 7 p.m. came, which was the end of my midwife's shift. She legally could not be there any longer, as it had been 12 hours, and as much as she would have loved to stay and help, she legally could not. But they got the doctor in before she left, just to check my cervix to see where I was at. And after 12 hours of labor, I was only... What? After 12 hours of labor, I was only 5 centimeters dilated. So it was not looking promising. And because of that, you guessed it, my chances of a C-section rose from 80% to 90%. At this point, the doctor did present me with my options. She said, if you want to have a C-section, we are more than happy to go and do that now, but if you want to wait it out, we can do that too. So I, of course, opted to wait it out. They said, okay, that's fine, we can do that. We will come to check on you in another 2 hours, but if you have not dilated to 7 centimeters by that time, then we will unfortunately have to do a C-section.
Hi. Ah!
No, let's keep it up. What's been happening? Tell us.
I can't remember.
It's currently now a bit past 7. 20 past 7.
For like 12 and a half hours.
12 hours.
I am 5 centimeters now, so I did extra 2.
It's not focusing. I need to put some light on it. Can't see your face. And it's way better, yeah.
Yeah, I'm 5 centimeters, which is 2 centimeters from the last check.
Which is 4 hours ago.
Ugh. I'm getting heartburn. Why?
Well, yeah.
Baby's moved down, but not a lot.
And she's getting swelling, which is not good.
She's gonna be a cone head.
Like all babies.
Yeah. But we'll keep going for another 2 hours, see where we go from there. Oh, I'm shaking. If I'm not at 7 in the next 2 hours, then game over.
Yeah, then we're getting cut.
Don't want to, but gotta do what you gotta do.
My midwife put me in the hands of another midwife who was absolutely amazing, incredible, lovely, even though she had never met me before. So yeah, the first thing she did when she came in, talked to my midwife to find out what the situation was, checked my chart, and she instantly said to me, "This chart looks fantastic, and you know what, I think like you've definitely got this and you're gonna push this baby out." Even though hearing that made me feel absolutely amazing, my husband and I knew that our day was probably gonna end in a C-section. From 7 to 9 p.m, I got a lot of breakthrough pain again on my right side, no matter how much of the epidural I had. And also, this was another thing about epidurals, your feet will get so swollen and puffy. These were the most puffy my feet had ever been. But along with this breakthrough pain, I started getting pressure around my rectum. And at the time, I didn't know what else to call my rectum other than my butthole. So I called for the midwife to tell her, and what I told her was, "I feel a lot of pressure on my butthole." And she was like, "That's really good, that's a really good sign." And after that, Roger and I discussed a better word for butthole and landed on rectum. So 9 p.m. came and the doctor came back to check my cervix, and luckily in those 2 hours I had actually dilated to 7 centimeters. So that was 1 centimeter per hour, which had been the most my cervix had dilated in the entire 14 hours. Even though the doctor was happy with me being 7 centimeters, she presented me with my options again, exactly the same. If I wanted a C-section, they were more than happy to do it now if I wanted, or I could wait. And again, I opted to wait. They said, "Okay, we'll wait it out and we'll check on you in another 2 hours, which would be 11 p.m. But unfortunately, when 11 p.m. comes, if we check you and you're not dilated enough, we will have to go for a C-section." Which I said, okay, yeah, that's fine. This point was make or break for me because, you know, they always say that however your mother was in labor is how you will be in labor. And my mum never ever dilated past 7 centimeters, so she had C-sections for all of us. Between 9 and 11 p.m, I got so much more breakthrough pain on the left side and a lot more pressure on my rectum as well. The only way to describe this pressure is that you need to do a massive dump, like the biggest dump of your life. Hey. No matter how much of the epidural I had, the pain just would not go away, and it was getting quite painful. Can't imagine if I didn't have the epidural. But yeah, 11 p.m. came, and this was, I think, the 3rd doctor that was swapped out. Just letting you know as well, so many people going to see you naked. I'm pretty sure that 10 to 12 people saw me naked. Anyway, that's what happens when you give birth. So yeah, she was the night doctor. She's like, "Hello, I'm the night doctor. I'm here to check your cervix." My husband and I we were ready to hear it that I wasn't dilated and that I would need to go in for a C-section. And she went to check and was like, "Oh, you're ready to push." Yeah, I'm talking about you. She's literally like, her head is literally right there. My husband and I looked at each other in absolute disbelief and shock, and I said, "Are you serious?" And she was like, "Yeah, her head is right there, you're ready to push." So my midwife got everything ready in order for me to push my little baby out, and my midwife told me that because I did get the epidural, which they turn it off at this point, I think, so you can feel a little bit more. Excuse me. Well, the way that I push is going to be a little bit different, and I would be doing assisted or guided pushing or something like that. Yeah, I went to pushing. She helped me figure out when my contractions were, and as I was pushing, she said, "You are pushing so well. This is your first baby, right?" And I said, "Yes, this is my first baby." And she was like, You are like, this is crazy. Like, I'm gonna be telling everyone about this story.
Yes. Yes.
Well done, you don't even need me.
Far out. Push, 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 push.
Good job.
Yes.
Nicely done. Good, well done. Oh my gosh, you are amazing.
Okay, take a break, no problem.
You've gone there, yeah.
Okay, push.
Keep pushing.
Push, 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 push.
That's it.
Yes, more.
Good, and again. Oh, very good stuff. Little push. Alright, beautiful. Vega's head's just out, so we'll wait for that next injection. Give me a big push. Sorry, John. Big push.
Oh my gosh, she's here. Oh, she's here. She's here.
You're good.
How do you feel?
Like an accomplishment. Very good.
She's trying to press me already, or she's just breathing?
She's just breathing.
Breathing.
She has my sinuses.
Oh no.
There it is. Perfect.
Oh.
It's like cutting a goat.
Cutting a goat.
That's beautiful. I love that comparisons.
We did it. What was the last update before?
9 p.m. was the last update.
Yeah, so what was I, 7?
7 centimeters.
And then
It wasn't looking promising.
it was alright.
It was a
Like, it was a surprise that it was 7.
yeah.
And then at 11, the doctor came to check. And she's like, okay, you ready to push? She's right there. I'm like, what?
This was at 11. This was at 11:23. She came out, so like 11 o'clock, 11:10, and now it's 2:30ish, 2:15.
We were both literally shocked. We were just like, what?
Yeah,
She's like, yeah, she's right there. You
Yeah.
can push.
I think they came like 10 past 11.
Oh, we was, oh no. So shocked.
Yeah,
And yeah,
she pushed her out like a beast.
there she is.
Here she is.
She pooed on the way out. Luckily she didn't poo in there. She pooed on the way out.
All the tests were good, which is good.
My blood pressure is low right now,
And she's exhausted, obviously.
so
Baby's
all
good.
like the adrenaline is worn off and I'm just like,
Yeah, and the epidural.
and I have all my catheters and everything needed out except for this one. This one's been on for 24 hours now.
Yeah. It's been a journey. It's been a good one.
Apparently can't take it out until we've done my first pee, I think.
Of the Lauren's hard work. It'd be really good.
No C-section.
Peace out.
So yeah, after 15 to 20 minutes of pushing, she was out. I pushed her out in 15 to 20 minutes. It was just insane. And I think I have my raspberry red leaf tablets to thank for that. So don't skimp out on that, ladies. Take your raspberry red leaf tablets. Not even drink the tea. The tablets, which are more concentrated. I pushed this baby out right here within 15 to 20 minutes. And little girl over here was born around 30 minutes before midnight. I thought for sure that I dumped because when you are pushing, it feels like you are taking the biggest dump of your life. But surprisingly, I didn't dump. And it's probably because I was told halfway through the day that because you're most likely going to get a C-section, you cannot drink anything and you cannot eat anything except for ice chips, which they have the best ice chips at the hospital, and I wish I could just go and get those ice chips every day. So yeah, that's probably why I didn't dump, but it did feel like I dumped. And I also got heartburn.
I can't breathe.
That's okay. You're alright. Slow down your breathing.
Slow down.
Oh,
because if I didn't eat, I got heartburn really badly. So as you could probably see in that video, I got heartburn while I was pushing. I did not tear my perineum, which was fantastic. I also did perineal massage, which my husband helped me with. So again, don't skimp out on the perineal massage, very important. But I did get 2 labial tears, one on the top left and one on the bottom right. The bottom right was a vaginal wall tear, and they were both 2nd degree, so it wasn't too bad. They stitched me up fine. My blood pressure did drop slightly, which was normal, and I never had blood pressure issues throughout my pregnancy. I did feel a little bit lightheaded. Yeah, that is my insane roller coaster birth story. I'm honestly still in disbelief that I pushed out a baby. Even though nothing went to plan, I at least was able to give birth vaginally. I am grateful to God, and He has blessed us with such an amazing, gorgeous angel child who is literally just the best. You're the best, aren't you? I hope you enjoyed this video, even though it's terribly long. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe to my channel, and click the bell icon so you know every time that I post, especially since nowadays I'm probably not going to be posting regularly. I'm just gonna do it whenever I want. Thank you again so much for watching, and I hope you are having a wonderful day wherever you are. Bye!